back up. I just ended it because I'm really struggling. And now we're on both Kick and YouTube. Okay, I have to fix our content scene. I'll do that while there's like no one here. Hi Gracie, hi Loons, hi Cammy. Yeah, I told my mom what happened. She's just like, so YouTube? I'm like, yeah.
like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israeli strikes have killed at least another 51 people in Gaza as the official death toll nears 46,000, though it's believed to be a vast undercount. Earlier this morning, a 15-day-old baby was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza City. At least 5 displaced Palestinian children were also killed in Israeli strikes on tents in Al-Mawasi, which had been designated a safe zone by Israel. Families in Gaza are building grave-like pits below their tents to protect children from the relentless strikes. This is Tassir Obeid, whose family is sheltering in Deir al-Balah after they were displaced 9 times by Israel's forced evacuation orders.
The tent, given that it has a pit with high walls surrounding it, protects my children from random strikes. My children, how were they in the past and how are they in the present? They were dignified. We, thank God, were in our homes and lands with our dignity, let's say. Currently, we live underground, as if in a grave. Surely this is not easy.
In the occupied West Bank town of Tamun, an Israeli drone strike has killed 3 Palestinians, including 2 boys, 8-year-old Reda Ali Ahmed Basharat and 10-year-old Hamza Amma Ahmed Basharat. Israeli forces have also detained 45 Palestinians in the West Bank as part of a sweeping crackdown after Palestinian gunmen killed 3 Israelis on Monday. Israel's far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich responded to Monday's attack by calling for cities in the West Bank to, quote, be turned into another Jabalia, a reference to the destroyed refugee camp in Gaza. Israeli settlers have also attacked several West Bank towns, burning cars, ransacking homes, and setting crops on fire. The Palestinian news outlet Wafa reported Israeli troops fired at Palestinians in the village of Amaten as they tried to confront violent settlers. Ireland's become the latest country to formally join South Africa's genocide case against Israel before the International Court of Justice. Last month, Israel closed its embassy in Ireland to protest after Ireland initially said it would join the case. Meanwhile, Israel's blocking the United Nations from investigating reports of sexual crimes committed by Hamas during the October 7th attack. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz reports Israel blocked the probe because it feared it would open the door to the UN investigating the sexual abuse of Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. The Biden administration's announced new sanctions against Sudan's Rapid Support Forces after concluding the paramilitary group committed genocide. Secretary of State Tony Blinken said Tuesday he'd made the determination, quote, after reviewing the horrifying information of suffering inside Sudan, where more than half the population, some 25.6 million people, has faced crisis-level hunger over the past year. The UN says more than 150,000 people have been killed since fighting erupted in April 2023. 11 million have fled their homes. The New York Times reports the Biden administration had been reluctant to admit the Rapid Support Forces were committing genocide in Sudan for fear it would highlight Biden's refusal to make the same determination about Israel's killing of Palestinians in Gaza. President-elect Trump has renewed his threat to respond with violence if Hamas does not release hostages held in Gaza.
If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone.
Trump made the remarks during a wide-ranging, rambling news conference at Mar-a-Lago Tuesday in which Trump repeatedly lied, aired grievances about the many legal cases against him, and threatened to use the Pentagon to expand U.S. territory. In an extraordinary exchange, Trump refused to rule out military action to take control of Greenland and the Panama Canal.
We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something.
Trump threatened to use economic force to absorb Canada into the United States. He continued his push later in the day on social media, posting maps showing Canada as part of the U.S. In reply, Canada's outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded there's not a, quote, snowball's chance in hell the two countries would merge. Trump also hinted at pardons over the January 6th insurrection, repeating the lie that none of the rioters carried guns into the Capitol. And Trump proposed
Simple
changing the name of the
solutions. Good
Gulf
to
of
see
Mexico
you.
to the Gulf of America as he continued his attacks on immigrants. We'll have more on Trump after headlines with Congressmember Jim McGovern. Pope Francis has appointed an outspoken Trump-critical critic, liberal Cardinal Robert McElroy, as the next Archbishop of Washington, D.C., just 2 weeks ahead of Trump's inauguration. Cardinal McElroy has condemned Trump's anti-immigrant positions, including his vow to carry out mass deportations. McElroy has also called for the Catholic Church to be more welcoming to LGBTQ members. Meanwhile, Trump has tapped Brian Birch, the leader of the right-wing Catholic advocacy group Catholic Vote, to be U.S. ambassador to the Vatican. The House of Representatives has approved the first bill of the 119th Congress, legislation that would require federal immigration authorities to detain undocumented immigrants arrested for certain nonviolent crimes. 48 Democrats sided with Republicans Tuesday, voting in favor of the Laken Riley Act, named after a 22-year-old nursing student who was killed by a Venezuelan immigrant last year. Rights groups have condemned the legislation. The Haitian Bridge Alliance called it a devastating blow to human rights and the core values of compassion and asylum, adding, quote, "This cruel legislation targets vulnerable migrants and asylum seekers, denying them safety and dignity." Los Angeles is under a state of emergency after 3 fast-moving wildfires exploded in size Tuesday, prompting evacuations affecting some 30,000 people. Over 1,400 firefighters are battling the massive fires in LA's Pacific Palisades neighborhood, north of San Fernando, and in Altadena. Forecasters are warning of near-perfect fire conditions today, with wind gusts nearing 100 miles per hour. Much of the region has not seen significant rainfall in over 8 months. Last summer was among Southern California's hottest on record. Meanwhile, a major winter storm brought snowy and icy conditions to the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic, with at least 7 deaths blamed on the storms. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has announced an end to fact-checking initiatives on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Zuckerberg announced the change in a video posted online Tuesday.
After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact-checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the U.S.
Nicole Gill, the head of Accountable Tech, called Meta's move a, quote, gift to Donald Trump and extremists around the world. Wired reports Meta has also loosened its policies on what can be posted on its platforms. Wired reports Meta users will now be allowed to say gay and trans people have mental illness. CNN reports Facebook will also permit users to call women, quote, household objects. Meanwhile, Meta has appointed a close Trump ally, Dana White, to the company's board. White is the CEO of Ultimate Fighting Championship. The Washington Post announced Tuesday it'll lay off 4% of its workforce, or nearly 100 people. The layoffs come just weeks after the Post's billionaire owner, Jeff Bezos, blocked an endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris ahead of the November election. By the Washington Post's own count, Bezos' decision prompted 250,000 readers to cancel their subscriptions in protest. The Biden administration's approved new rules that would wipe out an estimated $49 billion in unpaid medical bills from the credit reports of roughly 15 million people. The rules were finalized Tuesday by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, an agency that billionaire Trump megadonor Elon Musk has said he hopes to delete after Trump installs him as co-leader of the new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. And members of Congress, Supreme Court justices, and other dignitaries gathered at the U.S. Capitol Tuesday for a lying-in-state ceremony for former President Jimmy Carter. Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a eulogy.
He was a president who, between the years of 1977 in 1981 appointed more Black Americans to the federal bench than all of his predecessors combined, and appointed 5 times as many women.
President Carter will be buried following a state funeral at the Washington National Cathedral on Thursday and a private funeral at home in Georgia. And those are some of the headlines.
All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Got a lot of stuff to get to today. So in just a second, Los Angeles, and when I say that, I mean like downtown Los Angeles and like suburban Los Angeles, is on fire right now. Just completely and utterly obliterated by a wildfire. So I got a crazy number of videos and pictures for you. It honestly looks like a worst case scenario. They can't even get the planes in the air to fight it from the sky because the winds are too strong. So they're trying to contain it desperately on the ground, but they're at like 0% containment. So a lot to say about that. Then we'll get to Mark Zuckerberg cucked himself to Trump in humiliating fashion. We have a Trump press conference, which is insane even by the standards of Trump. I mean, this is like, I'm going to lose it, man. I'm going to lose my mind. He's not even in office yet. And he's saying the most psychotic things anybody's ever heard. We'll also talk about CNN sane washing, Trump's disgusting outright imperialism, and then Andrew Tate. Big Andrew Tate story later on. You're not going to want to miss this one. This one had my jaw on the floor. So everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out massively and costs you absolutely nothing. And much love to everybody who supports this channel on Patreon. Couldn't do it without you guys. Or tips with that thanks button on YouTube. Really couldn't do it without you guys. This is real independent media, not fake independent media. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's start with this. So Los Angeles is currently on fire. And it's not just like, oh, the brush in the hills away from the homes, it's on fire and it's like close to the homes. No, it's like the houses are on fire. The buildings are on fire. It's being absolutely burnt to a crisp. This is gonna, I mean, Jesus, when all's said and done, I don't even know how much money and damages there's going to be, how long it'll take to rebuild, how many people lost their homes or their businesses, etc. But what led to this is what's called the Santa Ana winds, right? So we're going to watch a little explainer on what the Santa Ana winds are, but it's incredibly hot there, incredibly dry there, and then you add the Santa Ana winds, and it was like the perfect mix for something like this to happen. Right, so let's take a look, and then I'll break it down for you further, and I have plenty of videos and pictures for you.
The Santa Anas are dry and hot winds that start when a high-pressure-driven cold front moves into Nevada's Great Basin. It pushes air down and to the west toward low-pressure areas on the Southern California coast. As the air descends from altitudes of up to 8,000 feet, it's compressed and heats up by 5 degrees for every 1,000 feet it sinks, reaching temperatures as high as 100 degrees. Simultaneously, as the air channels through the mountain passes and canyons of the coastal ranges, it's squeezed, which causes it to accelerate and move even faster. The effect is similar to partially covering the nozzle of a garden hose, causing the water to spray out up to 6 times faster than it moves inside the hose.
James, welcome in.
As the winds shoot out from the canyons, they can develop gust speeds up to 70 miles an hour. This means the winds could broadside a loaded semi-truck with more than 8,600 pounds of force, or enough to overturn it. But what makes the Santa Anas most dangerous is that they are extremely dry, with humidity as low as 5%. That's about 3 times less than the average humidity in some deserts. Now, combined with the heat, this lack of moisture can actually parch vegetation and turn it into fuel for wildfires. In fact, at times the Santa Anas have spread wildfires at speeds of up to 5,000 acres per hour.
And that's the thing. You're going to see just how fast these fires are spreading and how long the embers can stay in the air. It's incredible.
Torching areas larger than the city of San Diego in less than 2 days.
Terrifying. All right, so here we go. Let me show you some of the stuff we got here. This is just a residential neighborhood that you're going to see totally lit up.
My heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods. So it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this?
Hey,
what was your brush
Letterhack.
mitigation program?
What's good?
I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills.
That is kind of a huge problem because this is supposed to be the middle of the wet season there. These are supposed to be the months where there's actually some rain in Southern California. And instead, we're getting this. Last year it was the atmospheric river, which dumped a ridiculous amount of rain and led to flooding. This year, it's wildfires. It's almost like the climate is changing. Weird.
That are controlled by the city and the county. I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild. But the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
Get this, guys. Los Angeles cut millions of dollars from the fire department in their latest budget.
I think
they cut
I have
millions
to be
from the fire department,
like
and they added
monetized
money
before
to
they'll
the
let me.
LAPD budget. I don't know. Those priorities right now seem to be a little bit off.
Yeah, I think I have to be like a monetized channel before they'll let me let you redirect to me. But no worries. I appreciate it.
So here's a picture from somebody coming in on a plane to LAX. Look at this, bro. So these are like just total residential areas, suburban areas, businesses, homes, booming places, and look, that like it caught fire. You guys tell me. I know one of the top places that listens to this show. It's the people are in LA. So were you getting like alerts on your phone everywhere in LA? Right? Is there any place that's considered like actually safe and out of the zone where you could catch fire? Because I think they said there was like a red flag warning that was sent out to everybody in LA. Like that's how insane this is. So now it's blowing with the Santa Ana winds. It's blowing like out to sea, which is why you see like the fire's literally going right up to the water here. But again, the embers can fly up to a mile, and if there's a brief change in the direction of the winds, and let's say it blows south for a second, then like the fire can just spread all throughout the South. And I mean, everything is in danger right now. Like all these places are in danger. All right, more. The apocalyptic on the ground. Here you go.
Oh my God. You want to do it? Let's do it. Let's do it.
So, I mean, Jesus Christ. I got more apocalyptic scenes. Oh, by the way, the winds are between 80, gusts up to 80, or even up to 100 miles an hour. So that's why it's like, this isn't containable. They don't have the ability to contain it. And since it's so windy, they can't go from the air. They can't put fire retardant stuff all over the place. And so it's just like, what do you do? What do you do? Everybody's just watching the disaster unfold. Here's a picture. This person says, this is near Brentwood. Flames moving in. I've never seen a fire behave like this. It's a wind-driven ember storm with sparks carried more than a mile away. If you are in a threatened area, be safe and just evacuate. The last-minute panic is mentally scarring. So, could you imagine seeing stuff like this? I mean, this is hitting like Malibu, right? Just places that you wouldn't think these places would get hit. You wouldn't think that. When you tend to think of a wildfire, you think of like basically like forests and trees, and it sort of stays somewhat contained in that area. Although, of course, it can, break through to towns and whatever. But usually you think of it as there's a lot of trees and there's a forest around homes, and they catch fire. But no, this is just like total residential area because everything's so dry, everything's so hot, the embers are traveling so far that nothing is safe. Nothing is safe. All right, more. God, look at this. Look at this. Look at this from this angle. Jesus. Wow. This was earlier yesterday. There was a time, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 years ago, there was a time me and Corin were in LA for TYT and Rogan, and when we were there was the Santa Ana winds were happening, and there were also fires, but the fires then were more contained, and it wasn't like hitting residential areas. But I remember the smell of just burning wood in the air. I remember distinctly going, oh my God, we're not even close to where the fires are, and we smell it. The air quality is going to be absolutely abysmal. It's going to be so bad. All right, more. Look at this angle. In West Hollywood.
$100 a second.
You're already seeing videos of people sort of evacuating at the last minute. There's some photographer who's going around taking all these pictures, and when she was driving on a road that had fire everywhere and smoke everywhere, some woman was running down the street, and she had to pull over and say, get in, get in. I mean, the other thing, yeah, like the death toll. We're going to see a death toll when all is said and done, and it is not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty, because everybody thinks, well, this can't happen to me, right? This won't happen to me. This won't happen to my neighborhood. And it's like, this thing is you're taking no prisoners, dog. This thing is on a mission right now, and it's still, insofar as I know, this morning it's at 0% contained, and the Santa Ana winds are continuing. I believe they're supposed to slow down later, but through the rest of today, they're still supposed to blow aggressively. Okay, more post-apocalyptic. This looks like something from The Walking Dead, what you're about to see here.
This is a live picture, in fact.
Wow. I mean, we overuse that phrase, this looks like a war zone, but that looks like a horror movie, right? I mean, when you think about that, some of those movies where the cars are abandoned and everybody has to get out quickly, that looks like that image right there.
Well, to paint a more clear picture, this is what I was referring to earlier, that LAFD said any abandoned cars, we're going to have to bulldoze your cars to clear access for the firefight. So at one point, they may have just been in a single file, and now they've been bulldozed to be pushed to the side. So all of these vehicles, and at last count, I mean, LAFD said in one spot was 30 vehicles. Clearly, there's a lot more. Given this live picture as a photographer, and thank you to whomever is behind the camera for taking us up this road and showing us the damage of this Audi, obviously, as we're seeing there, the damage from the bulldozer on the side. It looks like maybe a pet was in that vehicle as well. We've heard a lot about that today, too, where people have gone out and it looks like some groceries in the back. They had gone out to run an errand, and then the fire began, and they couldn't get back home, and their pet was back at home, and they couldn't get the pet. Looks like the lights are still on, perhaps there, or maybe that's just the glare that I'm seeing. Yeah. But car after car after car, it does look like Armageddon.
Yeah, and you feel for all of those residents, and man, that's just awful to see. But you understand, I guess, the need to get fire trucks up these roads and try to save people's lives, and ultimately you can replace a car, but you can't replace somebody's life, and there is an urgent life or death fight. I mean, last night Adam Kruger was telling us the phrase that they were putting out. It was life-threatening fire. weather, fire conditions, and this is indeed what we're looking at. This is a life-threatening fire. Fortunately, so far, Marla, we do not have any reports of any injuries or deaths because of this. It looks like that is probably a bed for a dog or a cat. But, it would not be shocking, given what we're looking at right now, if we found out that there was, a situation like that based off of these conditions.
Mm-hmm. All right, more for you. More post-apocalyptic nightmare hell world.
And as Samantha Cortese has said, this is one of those dire, panic-stricken situations. That's because, look at this, the fire's right up on the hill. It is moving past. I can feel it's so close. We're going to be safe, but there's flying embers, there's ash. I can hear it moving down the hill. This is Pacific
look at that.
Palisades off of Palisades Drive.
Started right there.
As folks, whoa, we got to step back. We're feeling that warmth from the fire. Okay, so what you're seeing, Armando, be careful. So these cars, as you see here, they're abandoned. Look at that. The fire's coming up. We're going to move back. Nobody is in their vehicles. People are ditching their cars here on Palisades Drive and Sunset because they couldn't get down to PCH.
Sunset Boulevard. I mean, this is the world-famous road.
Okay, we're going to have to be careful because this fire is moving very quickly. We're going to try to move back. We're
going to let you go.
We're going to get out of here.
I think you guys are in a situation where,
Oh, my God. Well, the good news is this is all happening at the same time we're about to get the climate science denying president back in office. That's great. So probably pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement again, probably roll back some of the new standards from the Inflation Reduction Act and roll back on renewable and green technology that, just recently we started investing in. Probably try to ramp up oil drilling as much as humanly possible at the same time that this stuff is happening now on an annual basis. We get some sort of nightmare scenario like what you're watching right now. So that's great. It's great that the climate crisis is smacking us across the face on a daily basis, reminding us that it's real, reminding us that it's catastrophic, reminding us that we don't have a choice but to act. And also now we have people who are going to come in and exacerbate all the problems, make everything objectively worse, and also try to, scapegoat and point in different directions for the blame, but not to themselves, don't blame ExxonMobil, don't blame big oil and big gas, that industry. Don't blame the corruption and money in our political system, how those industries have bought our politicians. Don't do any of that, though. Definitely don't do any of that. So, this is dark, man. Like I said, I don't even know how much money this is going to cost when all's said and done, how many people lost their homes, how many people lost their businesses, how many people lost their lives, right? But, this is a nightmare scenario, and, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say LA may never be the same again after this. It may never be the same again. You already had a little bit of an exodus from California happening, over the past 5 years or so, and this might speed that up, right? This might speed that up. Because if the thought gets in your mind, okay, this place is really nice and stuff, but at any moment I can have a wildfire destroy everything, you might say, you know what? I don't want to live here. In the same way that people in, Tornado Alley might feel like, I don't like this. My neighbor's house got destroyed by a tornado. It doesn't seem safe. Or if you live where a lot of hurricanes hit, you might feel like, I don't know about this, right? And by the way, of course, I guarantee you, you're going to have insurance companies try to weasel their way out of helping people in this scenario, because that's what insurance companies do. They are slime balls. They are snakes. Obviously, all they care about is profit, and they will do everything they can to screw over people come hell or high water. So LA may never be the same. It may never be the same. And we're probably going to get some incredible stories, too, of this celebrity's house caught fire.
What are you doing?
That celebrity's house caught fire. This celebrity passed away. This is such a large swath of Los Angeles that got hit by this. And we're nowhere near done that we're going to be talking about this for a long, long, long time. And I wish I had confidence that something like this happens and everybody sort of goes, oh, okay, maybe we should take climate change more seriously. Maybe we should plan ahead when it comes to natural disasters. I wish. But no, like I said, if anything, it's going to be the exact opposite. If anything, it's going to be, whatever, rebuild as much as you can, shut the fuck up, pretend like this will never happen ever again, and just keep going until the next crisis. Because that's seemingly what we do, right? That's seemingly what people do. We are the frog in boiling water, and it's never been more obvious. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Counterpoints. Ryan, how are you doing? You're in the studio. We're going to be starting with the tragic wildfire that broke out in Palisades yesterday outside of Los Angeles. Then Donald Trump held a wild press conference. We'll break down all of the key elements from it for you. Mark Zuckerberg, obviously, as Crystal and Sauger covered yesterday, changed the free speech policy on Meta and some other things as well, but the reaction to it is what we're going to cover today because it's been very, very interesting. Kevin O'Leary is poised to buy TikTok. Obviously, oral arguments in the case at the Supreme Court will begin on Friday, so this is a very high-stakes game. Congestion pricing has gone into effect in New York City, and man, the reactions there, and there's just a lot to talk about actually with that entire story, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, Ryan, but the reactions have been fascinating to watch. And Ryan, we're also going to do updates from Gaza. This is something that Donald Trump touched on at his press conference, and there's a lot more going on with the UAE and other countries as they look for some type of settlement there, and we have a guest.
Yep. And it might not be in this show that goes out on the podcast, but we're going to be joined by Ahmed Khan again. If you may remember, a few weeks ago, we had talked about how he had spent something like 6 months and managed to get his own shipment of aid into Gaza, working with the on-the-ground organization Arena. We'll talk to him about, and he went in with the shipment. So we'll talk to him about like what he saw on the ground there. He also has been kind of at the forefront of what is kind of considered to be a niche issue, but it shouldn't be. There's something like 25 to 50,000 people.
PD, we watched it live. Christina let me know you were streaming it, and I was able to get it in time, like right before the ceremony started. So we were able to see.
Eat shit, peasants!
Thank you for the subscription. But yeah, we were able to see the ceremony.
Eat shit, peasants!
Oh dear. Yeah, but it was still beautiful.
Eat shit, peasants!
Okay, make that stop. Oh no, I can't make it stop.
Eat shit, peasants!
It's catching up on all the subs since I've been offline on YouTube.
Eat shit, peasants!
Oh no.
Eat shit, peasants!
Is it done? Is that all of them? All right. Why are we not sending hospital ships to Gaza? Because our goal is not to save Gazans' lives as the United States and facilitating the genocide. Okay.
Out on the podcast, but we're going to be joined who need kind of
the Palisades, where 30,000 people have been evacuated. Around 3,000 acres have already burned. And the fire, as we come to everybody right now, is 0%. 0% contained.
What?
There are 2 other fires raging in the area.
In men's? I don't know. Probably like a 8 in men's. Or like a 9 or a 10 in women's. So I don't know. Like that is a rando question.
As well, but this fire, the images that are coming in are just we're going to put some of them up on the screen for everybody right now. So if you are listening to this, what we're looking at here is just the hills in complete flames, people taking video from West Hollywood, for example, just showing how close the blaze is, looking down. Ryan, this footage that we've been seeing come in, I'm going to share another tab here. This is footage from KTLA from the perimeter of the fire. They've actually started clearing these. This is just shocking. People abandoned their vehicles because of the gridlock. Obviously, that's a very LA thing. They're now needing to get those cars, the abandoned vehicles that people left as they fled on foot, out of the way by using a bulldozer, just so that the firefighters can get in and have access to the to actually save lives and save property and contain the fire a little bit. But as of right now, it's not contained.
All right, Love Machine, you take it easy.
What have you made of this? Just in the last, honestly, Ryan, 24 hours as we've started to see some of these horrifying images.
Yeah, I was talking to a few friends who live in Los Angeles last night, and they said, the winds were unlike really anything that they had felt before. These Santa Ana winds whipping through. Measurements have clocked them at up to 99 miles per hour. They're expected, to continue at that pace through much of today. It seems like it's been at least 10 years since there have been Santa Ana winds of that force, and so they're picking up embers from fires, tossing them through the dry air, landing them on new rooftops, burning new houses, new fires sparking in throughout the Los Angeles area, creating a real kind of hell on earth situation. And like you said, 0% contained. Seems like there were reports of a lot of fire hydrants running out of water, and the traffic, on the best of days in Los Angeles is just brutal. The most poorly designed urban area you can possibly imagine, and trying to imagine escaping raging fire with those normal traffic patterns in your way turning into panicked traffic patterns. Every one of those cars represents a family or a person who was fleeing their home and then believed that they couldn't make it anymore in their car and just left it right in the middle of the road, which of course then leads to complete and total gridlock.
Yeah, I do want to share one video of 2 men escaping because I think it's a glimpse into the experiences that a lot of people in California have had over the last 24 hours, and it's apocalyptic. It's like a horror movie come to life. So let's take a look at this video here.
All right, dude. Yeah, let's get out of here. We tried, bro. I'm sorry. Got our best. Yeah, and then this tree falls, it's over. Sorry, bro. Gotta get out of here. Oh, shit. Holy shit. Is that tree?
And Ryan, what I think is especially horrifying about that video is you can see in real time the fire spreading because they're obviously running through the embers that are falling like snow onto trees, onto houses, and it really does look like, it looks like snow. It's snowing in hell, essentially. Like it's raining fire onto them. And you can see they're in the middle of how it's, spreading so wildly and why it's not contained, just like a horror movie. I mean, it really looks like a scene from a horror movie.
And it's unlike a lot of things, it's not sparing the rich either. It's going after, properties worth, well into the millions, really rocking the city. Hopefully these winds die down and they can get this under control, and we don't have kind of apocalyptic level damage despite the scenes that we're seeing.
Right, and so LA Mayor Karen Bass is actually not in town right now, but immediately people have started to wonder about the $23 million that she had recently proposed as a cut to the fire department. This is a headline from back in April. You can see if you go down here, she proposed a decrease of about $23 million from the LA Fire Department. And, that for Karen Bass is going to be a huge problem going forward when she gets back into town. Let me share another element here as well. A lot of people wondering, understandably wondering, this is a post on X. Where are our tax dollars going as the city of LA goes broke? One of the many questions we get. This is from the account of the LA City Controller, Kenneth Mecha. He says, the city just started a new fiscal year, and if you want to know how the mayor and a majority of city council decreased or increased departments' operational budgets, see below. So what you're seeing on this chart, if you can make it out, is a huge increase in the police budget. And as you go down, you start to see decreases that are going to now come under the microscope. Public Works is one of those that's, there's a big cut there. Fire, you can see that down towards the end. That's the second. If you're listening to this, indeed, you see a significant cut out of the fire budget. And Ryan, the other thing I wanted to mention is, you probably remember this. Obviously, the infamous company PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, ended up being under the microscope, just as Karen Bass's budget cuts likely will be in the Dixie Fire. Wall Street Journal reporter wrote a whole great book about how PG&E, they just hadn't updated all of their equipment, and that was like the literal spark in the Dixie Fire. And oftentimes, as we peel back the layers, this isn't just a force of nature. It isn't just an accident. It isn't just, there's usually some level, as you're peeling back, of incompetence or corruption or human error that gets to the heart of this. And that's going to be the question moving forward.
And if you step back kind of out of I think it's very difficult to look at Los Angeles in particular from inside of our perspective as Americans, because it's sort of like fish in water. Like, it just kind of is what it is. But if you try to step back and look at it from outside the United States or in a more objective way, what you see is a city that spends tens of millions of dollars on individual homes for individual people with the most lavish artwork and swimming pools and luxuries that anybody could possibly contemplate, say like 200 years ago, while starving kind of the rest of the city of needed public improvements so that people can actually move around efficiently, and so that public services are decently funded. And so we often say, well, can we afford, an effective fire department? Can we afford, better schools? The question that you might have to ask about Los Angeles in particular, and maybe the United States more generally, can we afford this billionaire class? Because we are the ones that have produced that billionaire class. It's our society, it's our system. We are somehow deciding or through not deciding, allowing this flourishing of this extraordinary inequality that is sucking up all of the resources that could be put in other directions. And the question is, can we afford it? And when you look at what's happening in Los Angeles now, to me, it says, no, we can't afford it.
I mean, it gets harder to afford it in that sense, Ryan, when you're also allowing the billionaires to like corrupt the system and to just live in a sheer state of oligarchy, which is sort of, it's tragic. It's tragicomedy in California because tragicomedy when there's not actual human life on the line, because you look at it and you're like, this is you have the system of referendums, like you have as close to direct democracy as exists in the United States, and yet the billionaires really run the show. So this may be a total force of nature situation that would not be uncommon or crazy, but California has seen some, PG&E is a company that gets just enormous benefits from the government. We've seen, massive slashing from Karen Bass. Fire was second to last on that list of the highest cuts. So yeah, there are going to be a lot of significant questions, I think, asked here, rightfully so, about the oligarchy in California, right?
Yeah, and we're entering a phase where the climate is going to be more difficult for our human population to live in, and more expensive, and we're going to have to decide whether or not we want to invest in that, or else whether we want to see it just burn down in front of us.
Horrible. Well, let's hope that things get better today, although it's not looking like they will. But stay tuned. We'll have a lot more to come on this story for sure.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get...
Chat, I need a beverage run. Sit tight. And I'm back.
The Biden administration declares that a genocide is happening in Sudan. The Biden administration, which has been intimately complicit in the genocidal atrocities being perpetrated in Gaza for the last 15 months, has just determined that a genocide is being committed in Sudan. On Tuesday, the Biden administration formally accused the Sudanese paramilitary group known as the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, of committing genocide in the civil war that has been ravaging the country since April 2023, announcing sanctions on the group's leader, Mohammed Hamdan Daglo Musa, along with 7 RSF-affiliated companies. The RSF and RSF-aligned militias have continued to direct attacks against civilians, Secretary of State Antony Blinken moralized in a statement regarding the decision, adding, "The RSF and allied militias have systematically murdered men and boys, even infants, on an ethnic basis, and deliberately targeted women and girls from certain ethnic groups for rape and other forms of brutal sexual violence. These same militias have targeted fleeing civilians, murdering innocent people escaping conflict, and prevented remaining civilians from accessing life-saving supplies." Sometimes all you can do is stare wordlessly at the absolute gall of these freaks. This is, after all, the same Antony Blinken who just flatly denied that a genocide is taking place in Gaza in his final interviews with the press a few days ago, even as mainstream Western human rights institutions like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch unambiguously accuse Israel of committing genocidal crimes of extermination against Palestinians in the enclave. This is the same Biden administration which has adamantly insisted on continuing to supply Israel with the weapons it depends on to continue its genocidal onslaught in Gaza, despite mountains of undeniable evidence that it is deliberately targeting civilians with deadly force and deliberately cutting off civilians from food, clean water, and medical supplies. And this is also the same Biden administration that has been sending weapons to the United Arab Emirates, while conveniently ignoring the fact that the UAE is sending money and weapons to the RSF to use for its atrocities in Sudan. The UAE has been covertly shipping weapons to the RSF, but that doesn't stop the Biden administration from pushing forward major arms sales to Abu Dhabi, notes Anti-War's Dave DeCamp regarding the announcement. So the U.S. is indirectly backing the genocidal atrocities it now denounces in Sudan, while aggressively defending the genocidal atrocities it is directly backing in Gaza. This announcement comes as Biden and his handlers push through one last $8 billion weapons shipment to Israel in the last days of his term, a final blood-soaked punctuation mark on an ugly legacy of mass murder throughout Biden's far too long political career. And we can't realistically expect it to get any better when the next soulless empire manager takes office. In a radio interview on Monday, President-elect Trump boasted of being the best friend Israel ever had, pointing to the numerous concessions he made to the Zionist state during his first time in office. "Well, I'm the best friend Israel ever had," Trump said. "You look at what happened with all the things that I've gotten, including Jerusalem being the capital, the embassy getting built." Trump then reiterated his threat to Hamas that there will be hell to pay if the Israeli hostages are not released by the time he takes office, following earlier statements which suggested the U.S. could become directly involved in the bombing of Gaza during Trump's term. The U.S. government does not care about genocide, regardless of what bloodthirsty ghoul takes office or what political party they happen to belong to. Anytime genocide rears its ugly head in a way that is convenient for the interests of the empire at best will look the other way, and at worst join right in with the slaughter. The empire itself is the problem. When the empire remains murderous, even after you get rid of the official elected leaders currently overseeing the murderousness, This tells you that it is the empire itself that is the problem. The empire is what needs to go.
Members of the RSF are committing genocide in Sudan, a conclusion made by the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He went on to list more reasons for his administration's decision to sanction the group leaders General Mohammed Hamdan and his business affiliates.
After rapid support forces entered our village, it was like living in hell. The RSF treated them as if they were not human.
The civil war, which began nearly 2 years ago, has displaced 11.5 million people across Sudan, making it the world's largest internal displacement crisis. Crucial humanitarian aid remains hard to access, and prices for basic goods are unaffordable for most. Sudan's food insecurity levels have worsened since June 2024, and as a senior UN official detailed during a Security Council meeting, famine conditions are spreading.
The latest IPC analysis shows that half of the population, or nearly 25 million people, are facing acute food insecurity levels.
Blinken said the conflict is considered the world's biggest current humanitarian catastrophe and escalated beyond war crimes and ethnic cleansing, a determination he made more than a year ago. Danielle Neary, TRT World.
Thanks for joining us. The Israeli military has stepped up its bombardment of Gaza, carrying out relentless attacks. It targeted the south with multiple airstrikes, killing at least 20 people overnight. The dead and injured have been taken to the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis. The Israeli military has killed at least 49 Palestinians since dawn on Tuesday. That death toll includes 5 children who were killed in Al-Mawasi. Well, Al-Mawasi is a narrow 12-kilometre stretch of land along Gaza's coast, starting from the western area of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza to Khan Yunis and Rafah in the south. Israeli authorities have ordered hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to go there for safety. However, it has repeatedly attacked that particular area. The UN estimates that more than 1 million people are sheltering in overcrowded and flimsy tents in Al-Mawasi, which has no water or sanitation facilities. In central Gaza, the Israeli military killed at least 13 people in multiple strikes. 10 members of the same family were killed in Al-Baraj refugee camp. Israeli forces also killed 3 Palestinians in a strike on a home in Deir al-Balah. Civil defense teams are working to recover bodies from under the rubble. Well, the head of the UN Humanitarian Affairs Agency says Israeli attacks on aid workers and the collapse of law and order in Gaza have made aid efforts nearly impossible. The Israeli military has blocked most deliveries of food, water and medicine to the Strip in recent months. Palestinians in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza queue for hours every day to receive just a hot meal from soup kitchens. With limited goods on the shelves, prices have increased, forcing many people to rely on aid in order to simply survive.
The prices are very high in the market, and there's a shortage of flour. I've been coming to this charity for more than 8 months. They help us with 90% of our needs. Without it, one would not know what to do.
I take the pot back home to find the children waiting for me. One would be holding their plate and another holding their spoon, and it is not enough for them. Are we going to stay in these conditions? This is injustice, hunger. I mean, it is famine. How long will we remain like this?
Well, let's speak to Hani Mahmoud, who's in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza, where all of this is unfolding, crisis upon crisis. And Hani, as the months-long siege of northern Gaza continues, the so-called safe zone of Al-Mawasi has been attacked again. What more details do we have about the impact there?
Well, this is one more proof that there is no place safe across the Gaza Strip, and the Israeli military publicly pushing for this narrative through their repeated attacks. These areas have been designated as safe zones from the initial weeks of this genocidal war. People were sent text messages, they were sent maps, they received phone calls by the Israeli military telling them that these areas are safe for you in order to avoid being bombed in northern Gaza and Gaza City in the eastern part of the Strip. And they ought to be in these areas to be safe, but they end up being killed. For 15 months now, we've been following this story. security. We monitored, we documented many of the cases. Families arriving to this area within hours, days, and weeks are killed inside these areas. It highlights a very important element here, the vulnerability of civilian displaced population in these areas. It also highlights another trauma here, which is that these areas are becoming a death trap for Palestinians already displaced and traumatized. Within a span of 45 minutes last night, starting at about 2:30 p.m. To 11:45, 11:30, the Israeli military carried out 5 deadly attacks across the Al-Mawasi evacuation home, the central part of Khan Yunis, where it targeted 2 tents, a residential flat, a residential home, and a car. Total of 20 people being killed, 5 children are among the casualties, and many others were transferred to Nasser Hospital with severe injuries and severe burns because of the ongoing bombs. Here in the central area, just a while ago, an ambulance pulled up in the area and a civilian car carrying more people removed from under the rubble. 2 women and 3 children from the bombed home in Al-Bureij refugee camp. Other than the baby that was removed last night from under the rubble, including 3 more from Deir al-Balah city in an attack on a residential home.
Yeah, it sounds like a catalogue of killings there, Hani. And we have, of course, been talking about this immense pressure on food getting into Gaza. Hani, from your experience of being there on a daily basis, what is it like? That daily ritual of trying to get enough food to eat. What does that look like for Palestinians in Gaza?
Well, as of this moment, life is becoming much more difficult and harder in each passing day in terms of availability of food supplies in the market. It's quite depleted. There is deliberate blockade on the entry of a humanitarian aid and humanitarian trucks into the Gaza Strip. People queue for long hours in front of bakeries, in front of stores, just to get what helps them to survive these difficult conditions. And even if they are made available, they are available at a very high price. It's skyrocketing prices due to the shortage and the depletion of these basic necessities. Let's not forget that it's not only the blockade on the crossing that is causing this problem. There is the repeated Israeli failures to ensure the safety of delivery of those trucks to designated points. The ongoing repeated attacks on humanitarian trucks, on aid workers on the ground are exacerbating the problem to the point many of these international organizations are ceasing their operations, leaving behind thousands of displaced families without proper access to the meals, the only meals that they were having throughout the day. So that these repeated failures by the Israeli military, the attacks on security personnel, have created power vacuum, have created also conditions for looters to spread across the Gaza Strip. They're not just looters, they're also violent. When they loot the trucks, they loot them with some sort of violence, leading almost to death and killing and injuring many of the people who are hungry, who are in need of these food supplies. We're expecting this to continue to happen as long as the Israeli military does not have the ability or fail to provide a sufficient, safe route for these trucks to the designated points, including the trucks that are managed and operated by UNRWA. For example, a couple days ago, 80 trucks of fuel were looted, and they were looted under the eyes and of the Israeli military that allowed this to happen.
Hani, many thanks for the update. Hani Mahmoud there with a window on Gaza right now in Deir al-Balah. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from out.
And what I'm writing about is not
chat. I need eeps. Head over here. No, Comradsky, I need eeps. My meds kicked in. But yeah, this is a streamer that I followed from Twitch, but they also stream to YouTube. Please go subscribe, say what's up, check them out. Be friendly. Hit the like. Hit the like here too. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. I love you guys. Hey, boost my GoFundMe if you can. Boost my pay links if you can. This is gonna be a really tough time fighting against these corporate overlords that decided I didn't need an income this month. So, I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Peace, blessings, stay well. Good night.